We are live.
We're back.
Hello.
Welcome to week 3. We're so excited you're here with us.
Yes, so excited. Week 3. Hey, Crystal, I wanted to start off by asking, how are you and your little doing?
Oh,
Thank you. My little beings, they're good. They're good. We all got sick. It wasn't COVID, but we did get sick and we're through it and we are alive and vibrant and better than ever with a little bit of sniffles.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Better than where you were last week then. So that's
Yes,
awesome.
for
Good.
sure.
Good. Yeah, so this week we're doing Why It Works. It's our first Why It Works. We decided to do kind of a small series on why it works. Actually, Tessa, this one was kind of your baby. Do you want to just give a short description of what we're going to be doing the second Wednesday of every month? And then I can kind of jump back in onto what this week's is in particular.
Sure. I feel like the three of us collectively have so many different gifts that vary all over the place. And there's so many times where someone will say something, we're like, wait, tell us more about that. Like, I don't understand. And so why it works is just allows us to dive into that and like whatever it is, we're just going to figure out why it works. That's why it's called Why It Works.
We're so creative.
I know.
That's why it's called Why It Works. Yeah, so this week we chose journaling as the first one. So this whole vlogcast is just going to be over our experiences with journaling, a little bit of the history of journaling, some of the benefits, and why we know it can work and can help in different areas of life. So with that, do you guys have any prompts? I know usually we start, which is a little different week because it's a Why It Works, but do you have any prompts that you were hoping people could walk away with at the end of this?
Yeah, I totally do. I've got a really fun one. So I know that there are a lot of coaches in our community and even just service providers, people that are out in the world working with other people, and whether it be like in personal development or, a hairdresser or a massage therapist. We have people in our community here in the Misbehaving Mystics that are there serving others. And one really beautiful journal prompt that came through to me through one of my masterminds was this question of what is your greatest wound? And the reason why this is such a beautiful journal prompt is because whether we're hairdressers or we're coaches or we're massage therapists or we're grocers or whatever, the people that are finding us in that, I don't know about a grocer, but the people that are gravitating towards us in a client-based world are the people that we share underlying deep wounds with, core wounds with. So that energetic system, it's like, okay, so I'm over here living in the world of a sexual shadow shamanista guide. That's me. And there can be someone who thinks they want that kind of training and that coaching. But the people that are finding me, because I've done this journal prompt to find my core wound, are the people that are feeling these same core wounds as me. So when you go into the prompt, just simply tell me about my greatest wound, and you can get into that automatic writing space where you just let go, let loose, let the unconscious flow through, let all the things that you need to say, that you want to share, come through. After you go back and look at it, you can literally circle the words that you said numerous times to understand what it is that core wound is, and therefore being able to share that in your messaging with your clients. So say, for example, I'm a hairdresser, but my core wound is I don't matter, or I'm traumatized. Say it's that. And then I make some messaging that says, stop being traumatized by getting wacky hairdos or whatever. And the person that knows trauma but also needs to get her hair done is going to gravitate towards me because I'm using that in my messaging. So it's not only journaling within myself, but how I'm journaling now out into the world and magnetizing my clients. That was a really great gift in journaling and a journaling prompt that was given to me at one time that I wanted to share with our community.
Yeah, for sure. Words matter. Again.
They do. And they're my love language. So
Yes.
Sarah, what's a journaling prompt that you love?
Do what?
What's a journaling prompt that you love? That's a hard word to say. Prompt.
Well, in this one, I actually was just like referring to typically how we start off the podcast, or what are a couple of points or prompts that we're hoping people walk away with. So for me, I wasn't necessarily thinking of specific journaling prompt right now, but the takeaway of just hopefully by the end of this segment, people are picking up some creative tips to make journaling a little more fun, or also some ideas of how to be a little more consistent with it, to keep it as an actual practice in your life. So that's what I'm hoping that anyone that gets to watch our live or the replay later, that's something they can walk away with after this.
I think those are two huge points. Like, I feel like one of the biggest reasons why we're doing this vlogcast, I don't know, I struggle with that word too, this vlogcast together is to make things fun and sexy, you know, and journaling can be one of those things that it turns into a tedious chore. And so it's really finding that way to get back to the root of it. And I just said Groot. I spent all night watching Avengers. The root of it, and figuring out how to make it fun and sexy, because it really is. Like, there's so much fun. Like what Crystal was saying, the ability of letting your unconscious mind just go ham. Like, be able to just sit there and write and not aimlessly wonder, not think specifically about anything, to just do that soul journaling and let yourself express itself with no judgment, raw, unedited, just showing up however it wants to be.
For sure.
I'm going through puberty today. My voice keeps breaking.
I didn't even notice. We're all more self-conscious of our own stuff, I guess, but I didn't know.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy how different our voices sound listening back to it than how I think I sound, at least. Anyways, so yeah, so I love journaling because I feel like it's selfish me time. Like, if you schedule out that time for just you to journal, that's like all about you. It doesn't matter about anyone else. It doesn't matter about anyone else's feelings or how anyone else is showing up. Like, that is your time to just completely express yourself and with total freedom. And I love the creativity that comes through it as well. Like, there's something between that, putting your body in motion along with the thoughts, that just takes it to a next level of learning, rather than just reading something off of a page or just thinking something in your mind. It really expresses it to a new level. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned that too, about just like being selfish, because that's one of the, I think, key components about journaling too, is just making sure that you're in a really quiet, good space where you're not going to be distracted, because that's your time to really unload some thoughts and feelings. And when you've got a million other things going on around you, then you're not going to be true to the process, and you're not going to get as much out of it. So it's definitely one of those key things of just making sure whenever you do journal, it's your own separate little quiet space where you're not going to get disrupted.
Yeah, and even like sound journaling. Like, if you listen to, whether it's the same song or the same sound or the same hertz or frequency on repeat, that's going to bring a new energy into your journaling practice as well. So.
I've been noticing, so I haven't actually been journaling since I was, like young adult, maybe teen. And it's something that I know I want to incorporate into my practice, because especially recently, I've been sitting with numerous colleagues that I'll be speaking with them, and something will come up. There'll be a decision to make, or just some insight that needs to be tapped into. And I've been hearing, I'm going to go journal, and then I'm going to come back and have something to bring and contribute. And that's why I find it so compelling at this point, so sexy, so interesting, so something that I'm going to do, even though I haven't done it in so long. Because, oh my gosh, to just get that creative flow, and then also to let everything flow forward and out of you in that way. Again, it goes back to, I feel that it's going to be, for me personally, such an incredible portal into the unconscious. And that's where it becomes really sexy for me, because if we can tap deeper into the unconscious mind, then we have more power in creating the life of peak existence for ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah. Tessa, you brought up a good point with the music and the frequencies too earlier. So I do typically journal just in the quiet. This morning when I was setting, I actually had some spa music playing in the background. So now I'm just curious on how big of a difference that makes. Or just listening to, like you said, you can YouTube like different frequencies, the delta waves or beta waves or whatever, for whatever you're attempting to accomplish at that time frame. So that actually could be a really good idea, to have that playing in the background while you journal.
Or even, I feel like, I'm going to paraphrase here, but I feel like you have said in the past that you feel like God communicates you through song, right?
Mm-hmm. For
So,
sure.
I mean, nothing happens by chance. We all know that, right? So turning on the radio or a station or a frequency, there could be an exact vibration that's supposed to meet you at that moment, and it's going to be something exciting.
Something exciting. For sure. And that was actually creativity. You guys have both said creativity. I don't know if you realize that with journaling, that was kind of one of your goals, I guess. A creative outlet. And it's funny because when I was looking up I knew there's so many benefits to journaling, like so many, and there is, but that was one that showed up that I didn't even really think about until I was looking it up. But it does increase your creativity, and it also increases, obviously, your writing skills and communication skills. You start to learn to use more words as you write every single day. You don't want to have to write the same stuff. So your mind starts stretching, which I thought was really cool too. And then, of course, reducing stress, anxiety, depression, all that good stuff. All the yumminess. And we're big on mental health. So that's a big one, I think.
Oh, what a beautiful mirror it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
I want that mirror. I can't believe I spent so much time not journaling, and that's why I'm super excited that this came forward, because it's just an anchor to holding that accountable for me in my own practice. I can't wait to see. I already know it works. I can feel it in my bones, but can't wait to see what it brings.
Same. I used to journal a lot when I was a teen. Like that was my big time. I kept diaries and journals like stacked in a little keepsake chest that I still have the keepsake chest. I don't have the journals anymore, so I don't know what I did.
Oh no!
I know.
Where'd they go?
Because I really, like, now's the time that I probably could have went back and read and been like, oh, you poor hormonal little thing.
Oh,
so real. Like everything was so detrimental, but I've got a few on my bookshelf back here where I've done a little bit more in the last couple of years. And then same, I just kind of fell out the last probably year and a half, 2 years, maybe 3. And it's funny that we picked journaling this week. And that wasn't even my thing to pick. I was kind of headed in a different direction, but I did just start journaling again about a week ago. I picked up a new journal and picked up, some different colors. So that's like one of the things too, where I had a previous coach and she was like, to make it more fun, do a lot of colors and like doodles or
yeah.
pictures added to it. And so I picked up a whole variety color set so that it's not just ink pen, normal blah. And it does help. So I'm like picking my colors out and I'm like, what color scheme do I want to use on my page today? And choosing up different colors and making little pictures to go with words in there. So it does like pop off the page and it makes it a little more fun and pretty. And then I read about adding actual pictures too. So that one I think would be really cool if you're doing like, you had a big trip or, you know, it's like when I came back and we all met up in Colorado and the very little pictures we did have, like how cool would it have been to have a little printout picture on the page where you talk about like, oh, I finally got to meet up with the girls again. And so I think that was a cool aspect too, some real pictures on certain pages too.
I think that's a really good point. So like journaling really allows you to have time to have that self-reflection and that self-dialogue with your unconscious mind. And it can show up however it wants to. Journaling does not necessarily mean writing words on a page. It can be, if you're auditory, you can sit there with a, what's it called? A little voice recorder thing, or even on our phones now, which I just learned thanks to Crystal. But like, it's just giving your unconscious mind permission to ramble without any judgment or without anything showing up. So if it's painting, drawing, writing, talking, whatever it is, it's just giving yourself that time to fully express and get everything out. So I love that. Like, I love colors. I think it makes everything so much more fun when you're journaling.
You need Vegas gold pens for yours.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So it's funny how you said you have that chest, because that's one of the biggest reasons why I feel like I journal, is because it's, legacy isn't quite the right word. But like, it's my gift to my kids when I pass on. Like, that's something that they get to humanize with me and know, one, I'm definitely not perfect. Two, I wasn't always an old adult. Like, I was a kid with dumb hormones and all kinds of things at one point. And even through like trial and error, when something pops up, if like my oldest and I get in a fight, and when I pass on to the next realm, I want her to be able to go back, if that lingered with her, any sort of trauma is with her, she can go back to that date and be like, oh my gosh, this is what my mom really was feeling. This is what she was really trying to say. So I don't know. I feel like it's a really special gift that my kids will get to have, because I've kept journals all the way from middle school up until now. And so whether it's my gratitude journal that they're able to see like very specific reasons why I'm so grateful for them, or me being a really stupid teenager having my boy drama, just making it normal for them.
Right. Like, wow, mom was crazy back in high school.
Yep. Nothing's changed.
I love that idea. I know that's the ones that I have on my shelf that I still kept have been through my entrepreneur journey. So switching from that employee mindset to entrepreneur. And I think that would be a really cool gift. And I thought that as I was writing different lessons that I learned along the way, that actually came across my mind too. I'm like, hopefully the kids take time to read this at some point after I'm gone. And maybe there's some little nuggets in there that will help them through life to make something a little easier for them that I had to struggle with from that. So that's beautiful.
I don't know. I have a couple letters from like my dad that he wrote when he was in Afghanistan, and my grandpa before he passed. And those letters are worth more to me than like gold, because it's like I get a chance to like really submerge myself into their thoughts, and it feels like they're there. So I feel like there's something about that writing that's so intimate, especially when someone passes on, that we get to, it's like snuggling up with a good book, but someone that you really, really love too.
Yeah. There's actually books too that, I mean, outside of journals, but it's still kind of like a journal, but with journaling prompts. I actually just got my mom one for Mother's Day, and it's like my life story or the book of me. And there's like so many of them that are labeled this. Like Barnes and Noble has tons. I'm sure you go on Amazon, whatever, they have a lot too. But it's really cool because it prompts like different parts of their life, where it's like, what's your fondest memory with one of your childhood pets? And like, what's its name? How did that pet come into the family? And there may be like, did you guys take family vacations? Why or why not? What's one that you remember? And like stuff from her childhood up through teen years and stuff that, because especially if you don't have that open dialogue with your parents where you talk about a lot with them, it's just kind of that on the surface day-to-day life, then that's something really cool. If it's like somebody that's kind of hard for them to express themselves, then that was kind of my thought. She was like, oh, she doesn't share a lot about herself or her past. So what a beautiful gift to just be able to write it and know that we get to know that information and she doesn't have to tell us. We'll just discover that later.
That's really beautiful. I love that both of you are like that. Well, Tessa, that you're practicing that for your kids. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you're able to see that too, Sarah, with how your mom is communicating through that way. That's like going to be her way of communicating, right? In those intimate pieces for her. And I feel like we can, in practicing that for ourselves, that's the gift. Yeah. Back to ourselves for sure.
So Tessa, you said you've been doing this since middle school and like pretty consistently, I suppose.
Depends on what your version of consistently is.
Okay. Maybe I read into that then.
I feel like the most is gratitude journaling. Like I'm pretty consistent with that. I like to go through magic rounds. So if no one's ever done that, magic is amazing. So we can pin that for later.
Okay.
But yeah, so doing magic rounds, that's definitely like my heightened time of journaling. And then usually when some emotions are just coming up or I feel stuck, it's more of a practice when I need it rather than I'm allowing myself to do that. I'm actually so bummed because I have this beautiful oracle deck that's called Light Transmissions, something like that. And I love it because there's like 72 cards. I totally made that number up. I don't know if there's 70. There's like this many cards. And you go through and each one has a light transmission. And so with it, you take the energy of the card and each one has a journal prompt with it. And I totally forgot it at my office. So I will have to pull one card with the same energy and put it in our group for later because it's super fun.
That would be awesome. Cool.
One thing that you mentioned, Sarah, that I thought that brought up something else. I'm trying to find it. Where'd I go? Is letters. I think that's a huge journal prompt that I am deeply in love with as well, is writing letters to yourself, whether it's an inner child self or a part of you that you feel shame around or something that, like I've written letters to my fat fucking self, like, dear fat fucking self, like I hate you so much because XYZ. And it's like, it's not healthy holding that stuff in. So just being able to get it out is super expressive. And then also writing letters to people, whether it's for forgiveness on myself or something that I feel like there's just some stuck energy there, or just letters of love to people. And it doesn't have to be for anyone else, but just for yourself, getting that, again, out of your system and out into paper removes it from being stuck in there.
Two more I want to add to that, which I find are really great prompts, are writing a letter from your 80-year-old self to now, and also writing a letter from now to your 15-year-old self. Really getting into, feel like we get into these places in life where we can feel like we're not showing up all the way. And when we put it up in those lights, our 80-year-old self fully approves, and gives us full permission.
Yeah.
And what we have to say to our 15-year-old self, I mean, how healing is that? So those are some prompts that I've been thinking as I'm going to start journaling now. Those will probably be my first ones.
I feel like with that, we also believe in like the quantum realm, right? Like possibilities are infinite all around us. So like by taking the time to do that, you're connecting to that source where you're allowing yourself to say, you feel stuck or whatever it is now, but I promise you will survive. Like there is hope at not the light at the end of the tunnel at an 80-year-old self, but something else better.
Yeah, that's like speaking from the healed self that is already on that timeline that does already exist, right?
Yeah.
And then going to speak to the 15-year-old self and actually going to that timeline and healing that as it exists right now. So we can do all of those things and all the past and future healing in this moment, because what is
and
timeless.
Consciously connecting it, like weaving it all together. That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I have like a list on my phone of all the books I want to write one day. And so one of them is what I would tell my lessons that I wish I knew I was 17 that I hope to master by the time I'm 80 or something around those ages. So it's interesting that is the specific words you brought up.
That is. Ooh, connection is there. Yeah, I was going to say that it forces you to mentally also, when you're writing to that future self and you're thinking of yourself at 80 and going back, and it's like, well, I know me at 80, I'm going to be like, all the shit that you're about to write that you're concerned about ain't even going to be a big deal when you're here with me at 80. Like, don't even worry about whatever you're going to write down that's a worry. It's going to be nothing here. So when you get into that state, it forces you to really realize that anything going on that you think is a big deal is not going to be a big deal. Like, it's going to pass like everything else has. And life is going to go on and it's going to be just fine. So it also, it forces you to be in that place where it's like, it's good. There's nothing wrong with going on in life. It's good. That's all people.
Especially like in the heat of high school. Can you imagine like if you were able to gift yourself that? Like, okay, 16-year-old self, so-and-so just broke up with me. My friends are fighting. Like the world is going to end. And also let me take time and write myself a letter to my 80-year-old self and see like, how is this going to come back to me? How is this going to reflect? Is this really the end of the world?
Right. So-and-so called me this at school today. It's like, so what? But it's such a big deal at the time. It is. So that's why I think, and especially for teens, this could be such a healing thing. I know it was for me at the time too, where it's just like getting it out, especially on really bad, stressful days, like having a cry as you write it out. And then it's like, tuck it away. Now it's done. So for sure. I looked up the history because I was like, do we even know, like, is it documented on where journaling started? Or is it a thing? There's actually a whole timeline. If you guys are interested, I can read a few.
Do share, Sarah.
It's pretty cool. So journaling actually, when it first started, used to be public accounting. So when people would journal, it was just about other people and things that they saw in the town or the community that day. And then the first, like, the way it gradually got to personal accounts, like what we consider journaling or a diary now, it went back to a guy in England named Samuel Pepys. His was found in 1660, and he had some public stuff in there, but his actually started mixing some personal accounts, like intimate details about quarrels he would have with his wife or things going on in their marriage. And so they account him or credit him for having the first like personal switch to the journal. The first travel journals, which is another type of journal we haven't really talked about yet, but I actually have one of those too, where it's like any trips or big travel expenditures I get to go on, then I have a journal just for writing about those trips, because traveling is like a big thing for me. And the travel journal started with the Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land in 1st century after Christ. So that was the first travel journals that have been found. Journal for a creative outlet, because you guys have both talked about that. So I thought that was really cool. That actually dates back to the 18th century, late 18th century, where people started using it for more of like an autobiography and actually published their journals. And interestingly, of those that got published, most of those that were the bestsellers were from female writers. So I thought that was cool. The females dominated on the bestsellers for those. 19th to 20th century, we started seeing war journals appear. And one of the most famous is the Diary of Anne Frank, of course. So,
I love that one.
Yeah. And
So
I can
good.
almost imagine that that's probably a big thing now, or it was recently, since we've been in this long war. That could have been something that a lot of people were journaling about too recently. Therapeutic journals for actually for mental health that we've seen started back in 1960s with Dr. Ira Progoff. And he has a very detailed, and I figure if you Google it and you're really interested, if this is something that journaling is going to be something to help you get through a really tough spot in life, if you journal his, and it's again, Dr. Ira Progoff, and I will put in the comments later so you can see his name if you want to Google it. But he has a very detailed, color-coded system for journaling for life exploration and psychological healing. So I thought that would be cool, somebody needing that. The 80s, we started seeing it in classrooms. English teachers would give them students dialogue prompts, is what they called it, or response prompts. And so they would have kids journal stuff, and then the teachers would respond back. And so it was communication back and forth from the student and teacher, but in a private manner, and it was still part of their English assignment, which was really cool. Our school never did that. I was like, that actually would have been probably pretty cool to do. And then now we're seeing the new trend as blogs and podcast and vlogcast. So very cool to see some of the different categories that popped up throughout time and how it started.
Wow, that's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking journaling. I'm like, oh, people have been accounting for stuff their whole life. Like, to me, that's how the Bible came about. So I'm like, surely that's like way back in the day, people did it all the time. But it was really interesting to see it started as actually more like public accounts of other people's stuff and not your own personal like feelings that came about later. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like, interesting. Sure.
I love how like one of the first ones that was a personal prompt was like issues in our marriage. I need to write this shit out.
Like, oh, that's very true. It's very real. Yeah, it was like, and he documented very intimate details about quarrels with his wife. At first, I thought it was going to go the other way, like intimate details of their, and no, that was them fighting, not them having sex.
Oh my gosh. So with that, I feel like that's a really good segue for us to move into the mist and go into our extended. So we're going to be talking about more in depth about some of our favorite journal prompts. Maybe some journals that we actually have been keeping. I know Sarah's shared. That's hard to say. Sarah shared quite a bit of that as well. Just going deeper into that, and then also some practices that we've seen that has worked, or ones that we would love to try, or what was pinned. Oh, and also getting more into our magic practice as well. So yeah.
And we are wanting to make the extended a little more interactive. So if anyone is, we do have an eyeball out here. If anybody is wanting to pop one with us and talk about their own journaling experience, then just comment and we will do our best to try to let you in here actually with us. Or if you want to just dialogue back and forth in the chat box, we can do that. If you're like, whoa, I was not prepared to show up on video today. I mean, we don't care, but if that's something for you, we get it. But if at any time you want to share your experience with journaling, just comment in the box, let us know. Also, it's a good idea to let us know if you're here. If you see us at any time from now till the time we end, just comment, like, even if you don't want to jump in to be interactive with us, just a hey, I'm here, I see you guys. Because we might have a little something going on at the end. And if you can comment, then we're going to know you were here and you might get to get in on that. So just a little tip before we move into prompts. But yeah, I know you talked about the letter to self and the future self, the old self. That was one of mine that I had written down I actually have done both of those, to the older self, to the younger self. The older self, actually, I haven't done it in a long time. But the first time that I did it, I was actually in this big group training thing. So it wasn't even in a private setting necessarily. So it might be really cool to go back and do that exercise while I'm have my own space, my own time. Though they had us go through like a meditation kind of process, or a visualization process would be more of what it is. So they had everyone in the room to close their eyes as they read through a story. And they had us actually like walking through this path. And as we're walking, we're noticing that path is inclining a little bit more. It's an old, narrow, dusty path. There's tons of trees around you. You're out here by yourself. And we go through this like whole thing of like looking at the colors of the trees, being very mindful of what we're seeing. And then as you get to the top of the hill, you see this old lady sitting on a blanket, and you go up to her just to say hi and greet her, and honestly to kind of see what she's doing out here by herself. And as you walk closer, you realize that this lady looks familiar. There's something about her face. And then as you get even closer, and so then you realize this is you as your 80-year-old self, and you sit down on the blanket in front of her, and you get to start asking her questions. Yeah. And so it was really cool to actually do a whole visualization to walk through and like really get the emotions and stuff behind it before you're just like, 80-year-old self. So that I thought was really cool to do, like really get yourself into visualizing, looking at yourself. It's just the two of you in this really beautiful, secluded spot. And you get to have this really intimate moment and ask her questions or advice. And it's really cool, the stuff that starts flowing out from that.
That's awesome. You gave me goosies.
No, I did me too again. And I did when we did it. I was like, and it's crazy, like in this group room, and there's like hundreds of us. And as we get done with this, closing our eyes in this whole visual process, and then we all open our eyes, there's so many people, just like tears streaming down their face. Wow. And it's like such a powerful thing. So that one I think is a really cool prompt to add to the letters to self, is maybe go through a little visualization before you start pouring out.
I think that's such a good add as well. Like journaling, going back and looking at it, like we talked, is such a good self-reflection. And it also shows us, if we're doing it through the years, it can show us patterns of self-sabotage that's continuously going up. And so whether it's something that you're doing that with your future 80-year-old self, and then maybe something you even scale it back and you take some of those same questions and ask like your parents or generations that are still here with you now, then you can find some of those generational traumas that's appearing over and over. And they can get rid of that. So your 80-year-old self can be free.
That is so real.
Love
so
that.
real. I took a family psychology class in college, and it was one of my required courses, but they talked about, and it was such a good book, and I'm going to have to try to think of it and look it up and then just maybe put it in the group at some time. But it was such a good one about breaking that family cycle of that you will see patterns repeat itself, even though you may think, I'm going to be nothing like my mom, or I'm going to be nothing like my dad. And then when you start really reflecting on certain points, it's like, damn, I did that same thing. And I like, she's showing up. She shows up from time to time. I said,
for you.
like siblings that repeat almost the same thing. And it's just, it's so crazy. And this book went into different like celebrities, politicians, and it tells some of their family craziness and cycles that have repeated. And it was really, really good. So I have to try to find that one. But you're right. That's a really good way to also do some reflecting there on that, the whole family dynamic and where you see it repeated and why.
Yeah, generational baggage is real. We have enough of our own baggage. We don't need that shit coming with us too.
That's right. That's right. For sure. So maybe we finish that, we journal at the night of our family baggage that we've just got out, and then the next morning we start off on that clean slate. I love you. I'm sorry. Now we're all clean. Combine last week's with this week's.
Such therapy.
I started what I've been doing with this one that I got this past week. I've been combining gratitude with just kind of a daily reflection. And so what I've been doing is before my meditation now, I write down my 5 gratitudes, and then I will go into my meditation. And then later at night, when it's just about bedtime and I'm up by myself, then I do my like reflection of the day. So each day has 2 pages. It's got my gratitude page, and then the next page is a reflections of the day page. So that's what I've been doing on this one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's that quote, and I don't know who it's by, but what gets measured gets managed. And so I feel like this is a good self-inventory checklist of you going through and consistently measuring yourself, whether it's a food journal. Like if we were consistently keeping a food journal, you would lose weight. No doubt about it. Like just knowing all the things that you're consistently putting into your body, if you're consciously aware of it all the time, you'd probably make better choices, or at least healthier choices.
Yes.
I think it's the same thing for mindset as well. If you're doing that constant inventory checklist internally, you're going to start finding some things that you can tweak just a little bit.
Finances too. They actually tell you to do that before you start setting a budget. So if you're wanting to move into being a little more responsible with your finances and you're going to start a budget, they tell you before you start the budget, you actually need to be tracking like every single thing that you're spending. And when you start adding that up and looking at different categories of where you're spending money, then it is a big realization of like, oh, wow, I did not. Like when I first started doing that, I had a coach that had me do that. And when I first seen how much I spent going out to eat, I was like, oh, it's like, okay, so maybe this is something I need to control because I don't like
There's
to cook,
something about knowing that you physically ate that money and shit it out that is just like,
I have nothing to show for that. That sucks. And I probably could have did away with like half of it because I end up not eating. My eyes are bigger than my stomach half the time I show up. And then it's like, oh, that food got thrown away. So I could have literally spent half of that and still been fulfilled. So, but it's just, yeah, it's bringing that to your awareness because you don't know until it's thrown up in your face. But that's like, my husband's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to know what I spent. It's going to be gross. I'm like, yeah, it is gross. That's the point.
yeah, because suddenly dad bods are a thing. Like, where's the mom bod movement? I want that to come up.
I know.
I'm
It's a total thing.
totally spearheading it.
Yeah.
You're spearheading it?
Yeah.
I dig it. Let's do it. That's awesome. I'm down for that movement.
Yes.
So going back to magic. So magic is I can't remember her name. Rhonda
Byrne.
What is it?
Rhonda Byrne.
Byrne from The Secret, which is most popular, I think, from Netflix. So she wrote a little journal prompt book called Magic. And so what it is it takes you through 28 days of a gratitude practice. So it starts out with every single day you start your morning with 10 things that you're grateful for. So I'm so grateful or I'm so thankful for blank because blank. And so it's not only getting the gratitude out there, but when you're emphasizing it with the because, it just makes you feel a whole nother level of gratitude for it. I feel like so many people are, and like I'm totally guilty of it, like, oh, I said thank you. Like I was grateful for that. And like I know one thing that's popped up for us is I think one of the biggest differences between being spoiled and being a manifester is the gratitude in between it. So I think it's a really good way to complement that in. And then from there, it moves into your special rock practice. And so I love what you said, Sarah, because it totally ties in with that. So you find a rock that just feels right in your hand and you take it. And so every morning you're starting with your 10 statements of gratitude. And then every night you're holding your rock right before you go to bed and you're just rubbing it and thinking of all the things you're most grateful for throughout the day. So you're starting your day and finishing your day in gratitude every single day. And then from there, it just moves into 28 minus 2, 26 other practices of specific focus on something that you're grateful for. So that's one of my favorite things for sure. I think that magic is magical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also soul journaling is one that I love, where kind of what we were talking about earlier, just aimlessly writing and not going in with any specific purpose or anything that you're trying to get out, but just letting your unconscious mind go free. And then, like Crystal was saying, going back and rereading those and highlighting some of the things that were either recurring or repeating, or even something that's shocking you that you didn't realize that was lingering in there, that's wanting to express itself, and then able to either journal further on that or let it be there. And then like finance journals, food journals, like this can happen anywhere. And there was, I can't remember who it was, but there was this one that I read, I think she called it joy journaling. And so she wrote the thing that brought her the greatest joy for that day. So even if she had the shittiest day ever, she had to find one thing that brought her just tremendous joy. And then just going through 30 days of stacking that up and figuring out, like at the end, like, oh my God, look how much I have to be so like joyful for. I feel like that goes hand in hand with gratitude too. So those are all some really sexy ones that I think are fun.
Fun. Yeah, those are some good ones. I love the joy. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that really speaks and points to what journaling does on a vibrational level, because if we're there sitting in the gratitude, as you know, in the practice of magic or joy or whatever it is, it really is kind of like it anchors us into the vibration. So this is a massive manifestation tool that can be utilized. And I love that in the way of, okay, I'm going to continue to focus on my gratitude each day, continue to focus on my joy each day. But what that's actually doing is putting us in a vibrational match with more joy and more gratitude. So, you know, it's affirming our belief system. Yes, it's a cognitive experience. Like journaling in my mind about these bees, and they're like coming to get me because I'm a vibrational match to them.
It's telling you to be happy.
Yeah.
Just be.
Yeah, it just is, right? It's that anchor into the vibration and the belief system. Like, okay, I'm here, I'm in this, I'm now the source, the lighthouse of this energy. So, of course, that's going to come to me with more ease and flow. And the way that I like to use gratitude in a journaling, which I have done this before, just not in a consistent practice, and I think this will be how I step in again as I do, is just to ask myself, what are you grateful for? And then, you know, answer the prompt. Or what I'm going to do now is tell me about you and gratitude. And I'm going to answer the prompt. And I'm going to ask myself again, tell me about you and gratitude. And I'm going to answer the prompt again. And I'm going to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into tell me about you and gratitude. And the reason I want to do that is because I feel like that's really anchoring into the vibration for me and like how my body works. It'll really start to break open what at the core gratitude is for me. And it'll give me that body sense, that somatic sense of how to get to that direct line to it. So now I'm like, okay, I've journaled about it. I know the vibration that I'm in, the true source vibration that I'm in when I'm in gratitude. And now I'm driving and I'm like, okay, let's feel that in my body, you know? And now I can be that more even when I'm not journaling outside of that experience. So I think it's a great manifestation tool, journaling, and anchoring us into the felt sense of what it is to be in the vibration of what we're journaling about. And it could be on the other side too, right? We're talking about our greatest wound or how shit is flying off the handle around this, that, or the other. And we can feel that sense in our bodies. while we're journaling, if we get sensitive enough, tender enough, and we allow all of ourselves to be in that moment, the journaling really gives us the opportunity to let that energy flow, feel it in our bodies. And now we know, while I'm driving my car, or I'm at the grocery store, or I'm doing all these other things, if I can feel that vibration in my body, I know how to now flip the script, and I know how to find that direct line to something else that feels better. Because as I feel better, then I'm receiving more that feels good with ease and flow.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it's like the first step of really getting your outcomes out there. It's like really bringing it back into the physical plane where it's like, okay, not only was I thinking this now, but it is now officially out there. It is in this realm for me to declare that I want this, or that this is going to be something that manifests in my life. So that's crazy. I love that.
Yeah, such a good point. Such a good point. I'm actually, I know you talked about Tessa going back to the joy one too, where she compiled it and was like, look at all these things I have to be joyful about. And that, I mean, that also for sure sets that vibration of just having more joy in your life. One of the things that I was wanting to do with mine, the plan is at the end of the month, so the last day of the month, I'm going to go back to my reflections and do a summary for the month. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to do a summary of each of my month summaries so that I can look back and be like, oh man, yeah.
Bless you.
Like all these things happened this year, because there's so many times where, which I told you when I was going back through my numerology book, and then like life stuff repeating itself. And I'm trying to go back and account for different things that happened in different years. And there's so much blanks there. I'm like, I don't remember what happened at that age. I don't know what year, what was really going on, what big things happened, what's some stuff that sticks out. And we forget so much. So I think it's a really cool way to be like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened that year. And that was the year that this happened. And how cool. That was like, actually turned out to be such a cool year. So I think it's a really good way to keep account too of what's occurred for you in life.
I don't know why that brought up like the collective energy, like also journaling if we're going in as a group or a community with the same intention as we're journaling through, that collective energy that it brings is healing as well. Like this just popped up, so hopefully you guys feel this is yummy. But like 9/11 is coming up. I didn't realize this is the 20th anniversary. Like I remember exactly where I was, what was happening, like so many people do. And it's like, there's so much healing that still needs to happen there. So I would love if our misbehaving community stepped up and decided on 9/11, we'll choose a specific time or just maybe a practice before you go to bed and writing like just a 10 gratitude statement of 9/11, what that experience brought up for us, or just something where we can put that collective energy and heal the fucking world, because that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah. Especially right now. I mean, it's come very much right back in our face over the last month with us pulling out from there, and everything that's went down is still happening over there, which is a tragedy in itself. So I think, yeah, how crazy on the 20th year anniversary, we're revisiting these wounds in a much different way, but there's still the same theme. So I love that idea.
So let's develop it a little more. What do we want it to look like? Do we want to do gratitude statements around soldiers, the events, the people that were involved, or I think if we can get our collective energy specifically zoned in on something, it'll make a ripple effect.
The only concern I have is if we narrow it too much, 9/11 means different things for different people.
Yeah.
And so if the gratitude or the lessons that they specifically had was something very personal, it was not that it was from that event, but maybe it wasn't military, then I wouldn't want to leave that out.
I think it comes down to the prompt of what did you learn? Because there's going to be people that aren't stepped into gratitude around it. They're not going to be dropped in. And there will be that people that are. And of course, it's our job to encourage gratitude, right? We want people to be able to feel that in their bodies and reach for that in their systems. But for some people, that's not going to feel yummy at all. It's going to be really hard to find gratitude. So I think it's, what did you learn? That would be my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Can
agree.
we make that like what you're, so I love that, Crystal, being able to expand it to be able to find gratitude for what you did learn. Because I think that's where a lot of the magic lies, if we're able to bring that collective energy of just healing. So what prompt could bring healing as a collective group?
Yeah. She's got to get in her zone.
I know she's going to come out with the perfect words. No pressure.
No, that's too much.
That's too much. I'm just processing.
So what did you learn? And then what did you learn? And then repeat that, Tessa. It was
like, what's a lesson that you're grateful for?
Or how to just transition that into a healing experience, whether for you or for this universe, whatever it is. How can we transition that to healing energy?
So is it, what did you learn from 9/11 and how have you healed from 9/11?
You learn from 9/11. Or maybe the healing hasn't taken place either.
Good point.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too.
What if that's a journal prompt? What is left for you to heal around 9/11?
To bring it to awareness.
I have a lot to answer for that. I'm going yes on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some lessons or some things that you've learned from the events of 9/11, and in what areas have you healed or do you still need healing?
Yeah. I think that's really beautiful. Just putting that conscious energy towards it will be healing in itself, whether it is healed, CBD, or whatnot.
Yeah. Cool.
And the journal prompt of, so if it's, how about we come up with it and we'll put it on the page. And then I would like to encourage us to answer that question 10 times to ourselves. The same question over and over and over. So we really get deep down into the core of where it lives for us. We can really participate in that.
Like 7 layers deep is a beautiful journal prompt too. So what I need to heal around, or whatever that initial one is, like Crystal said, we'll get the words more put together here. And then, okay, so why is that important to me? Or what does that really mean to me? Or what really needs to be healed? And do that, whatever. If we want to do 7 layers, 5 layers, 10 layers, or until you feel like you've hit that core layer.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful.
Okay, well, we have some homework to do, and we will put it into the group to hopefully encourage you to do some homework with us, because it is beautiful. And like we said at the beginning, journaling can be sexy as fuck, and it can be fun as fuck. And this is a way for us to take all those superpowers and make it
super
healing, healeristic.
Yes. That's a word.
Healable. I don't know what the word is. Insert healing word here. So that brings us to the end of our time. We hope that you've loved journaling, and hopefully that brought up something for you whether it triggers something or it's something that feels juicy for you. And even if it's something that you do once, give yourself that space and grace to congratulate yourself for even doing it once, because that's a foot in the right direction. So that's what we're aiming for. And then hopefully that foot turns into running. And then before you know it, you'll be giving us some journaling tips. I'm sure you guys already have it, but
Yeah.
For sure. I'm sure. Oh, and exciting news before we hop off here, because we're going to do our first giveaway as well. Yay! So as I was kind of prepping for this week, it just kind of hit me, and then I asked the girls, I'm like, are we cool to do this? Because I really want to. And of course it was a resounding yes. So we're going to, for one lucky person, we're going to attempt to see who all viewed on here during this live vlogcast. If not, we'll come up with something else for somebody that's in our community, and we're going to draw a random name, and that person will get a journal and a multicolored Sharpie set for you to start your own journaling, or to continue if you are already really good at it and very consistent. Then this will just be another one to add to your collection, and maybe a few more colors to make some of the prompts colorful. I'm
color
excited.
is life.
Yay.
Yay! So we'll
Yeah,
announce that
so
on the page.
Let us
That
know
would be
if you got to this point in the video. Drop a comment and share some heart emoji love.
right.
And yeah, just let us know what journaling means to you and what practice is the takeaway, or maybe it's one that you're already doing that you're going to continue on with. And then we'll filter through the comments before our next vlog. So by Tuesday night, we'll choose a winner, and then we'll send you some special goodies.
Yay!
All
So
right.
be sure to
Goodbye,
comment.
everyone.
Happy journaling.
Happy
Bye, guys.
journaling.